I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands wherever you may be listening from and wherever my guests are joining from too. Sovereignty was never ceded. This was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Jenuine Conversations. So in today's episode, I'm joined by Paul Hewett, CEO of In Marketing We Trust, a data-led digital agency. So Paul has been deep in the AI and data space for years now and was ahead of the curve, hiring his first AI researcher 6 years ago. His team combines data search and machine learning to drive seriously high-performing campaigns with strong emphasis on transparency and ethics around the use of tech. In this chat, we are going to explore how Paul's team is using AI in real-world marketing operations, what's changed over the past few years, and why keeping the human insight element and empathy at the center of it all matters, especially more than ever with all the chatter about AI going around. So thank you so much again for joining us today, Paul.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So to begin with, I'd love to get a bit of an elevator pitch, I guess, essentially about your journey and how you've ended up, as CEO in marketing We Trust.
Yeah, so if I start with the company actually, and then I'll give you a bit of an overview of my career. So as you've mentioned, In Marketing We Trust, we are an innovative agency, data-driven agency. And one of the reasons we get out of bed every morning is to help our clients own every search moment wherever it happens. So that's what keeps us going. And obviously it's a very exciting space at the moment. We're working in the broad area of search and analytics. As we'll get into, search is changing at a very fast pace at the moment, making it an exciting place to work. So in terms of where we're based, we are a global organization. So we've got around 84 team members at the moment. We're working in something like 26 different languages. Very, very exciting team to be part of. In terms of my personal focus, as you mentioned, I am CEO of the agency. That title is can be a bit misleading. It can be a bit open. How I spend my time is working with clients on commercial strategy, and I'm a really kind of left brain, right brain kind of person, where I'm looking at economic demand. I'm looking at consumer economics. I'm looking at data and technology, all with the aim of trying to understand how we can get our clients better results. In terms of my background, I've always worked in marketing. So my education was actually in product design many years ago now. And then I quite quickly moved into web development, actually back when it was kind of PHP, MySQL, and I still dabble a bit with Python and stuff like that. And then I moved through an agency which was qual and quant database, a market research business, and a CRM and response business, which I later bought. That was about a 120 person organization, and that would have been back in around 2000 and I'm going to say 2008, 2009. And then I went on to start my own agency and took a holiday out in Australia and absolutely fell in love with Australia. And that's when I met my current business partner, Freddie, and we arranged for me to move out to Australia it would have been 2015, about 10 years ago, to grow the agency. So very small agency back then, to what we've got now, which is a decent sized small business. Yeah. So that's the background. Currently also serving on things like the IAB Data Council and doing a few bits and pieces with industry peak bodies in Australia as well.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. So, in terms of the implementation of AI in your sort of everyday kind of work life, like how has that kind of progressed from, kind of 6 years ago, introducing it to now? Because I feel like a lot of people are more, I guess there's lots more sort of chats about AI and things like ChatGPT the last kind of 2 or 3 years or so. So, hearing that you kind of started off with that 6 years ago is, incredibly interesting to me.
Yeah. So our journey has been quite interesting, and it was, I'm not going to say it was intentional. We got into it by accident. An opportunity came up, and we thought we had the skills to at least develop the idea and go and recruit the people we needed to get into this area. And so that's what we did. So obviously AI is very hot topic right now, but it's been evolving over decades, so it's not a new field by any means. And our entry into AI was actually through machine learning. So we were working with a client. It was a large client, so Expedia, which is an online travel agency, and we were working with the global team based out in Seattle. We had to optimize a really large number of pages for them. So they've got tens of millions of pages globally, and that presented some unique challenges. So what we had to do was assemble a team that allowed us to process billions of rows of data to get SEO results for them. So that was our entry point, and it was actually more than 6 years ago, but we had the good fortune of being introduced to someone who could help us from an AI specialist perspective, who really helped us progress that capability. And then naturally, as ChatGPT launched, so before the consumer interface, when it launched via the API, I think that would have been probably 2022 rather than 2023. We were naturally in a position to lean into that capability and start exploring how we could help clients. So we were very early into that bandwagon just because it was something that we could already do. And that then led naturally into our next project, which is with another, not Expedia, I can't say the name, but another very large travel client, global, where we've been leading on a number of innovative Gen AI capabilities for them over the past, since 2023. It would have been early 2023, and it's just been fascinating. Like the pace of change from where we were back then, and the struggles we had with the early models up to where we've got to now. It's been a fascinating journey. And so that scope of work continues, and we're developing it, and now we're rolling it out for other large companies as well. So including one of the world's largest rideshare companies. Again, not allowed to mention her name.
Yeah, that's okay.
But there's lots of many of them, so yeah, I'm sure people will get a good idea of who that may be. So yeah, that's where we are with that, and I think the team capability that we've had to build around that. We are a search marketing organization, so we do all the usual search marketing things like content production and technical SEO and measurement and analytics, but we've really had to invest in our data and engineering capabilities. So that part of the business now is really well formed after all of these years. And so now we're trying to kind of put that to use in terms of how do we deploy it for standard clients, and then how do we have different solutions depending on the sophistication of the clients. So we're working with local or national Australian companies all the way up to some of the biggest companies in their category in the world, and obviously we've got to serve those customers in slightly different ways. But I think the interesting thing is that we're learning so much from all of these clients is that we're able to kind of push everyone forward. So there's a bit of a momentum for all of our clients through everything that we're learning in this field at the moment, which has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you feel like your team's sort of been evolving with these, sort of improvements and these changes with AI, but also balancing not feeling like they're going to be replaced anytime soon as well?
I'll deal with the being replaced thing first, and then talk about. I don't think people are going to be replaced anytime soon. Obviously, we are seeing some companies reduce their workforce and then rehire them. I can't remember which company it was, but there was a case study a couple of weeks ago where one of the tech platforms in, I think it was a San Fran company, they laid a load of people off and then quite quickly realized that they needed to bring those people back on. I'm an AI optimist, and I've got to blend that with also being a data privacy advocate, because there is those two things don't go together that well in practice. So being an optimist, some of the trends that I'm actually starting to see is the quality of work produced by Gen AI in the hands of the right people. So whether it's developers working faster, some of the stuff you can do with Gemini, for example. Like I said, I've done web development over the years, so I still know my way around code, not as well as people in our team these days because I'm rusty. But I can produce code very fast, and I know how now to quality check it. I know how to work with something like Gemini in a structured way to get the best output from it, and so do our team members. So it just means we can get through way more work faster. And then if I take that across to something that I saw in content the other week, we've been testing video content for our clients, and we get okay results using general content creators. But I met with a friend who runs a video production company about 2 weeks ago, and the results he's able to get because he understands that area of expertise just blew anything that we're doing out of the water. And so I think in the hands of the right people, you're always going to get better results than in the hands of a novice. So that's the replacing jobs thing.
Yeah.
And our view on that as well is to drive quality, not quantity. And if we can combine the two, awesome, but it's a quality first, performance first mentality. So then in terms of adoption, I would say the adoption and the change in adoption has been dramatic. So I read somewhere recently that it took Google 13 years to get 1 billion users, and it took ChatGPT less than 3 years to get to 1 billion users. So that rate of adoption is just enormous, and we can start seeing that coming through in all of the analytics accounts. There was an inflection point last year in October where things just started going up dramatically. And what that means and how that what that means for our team is that AI is now being democratized. So no longer is it in the hands of just the technical people. So the data scientists, the AI folks, it's in the hands of everyone in the agency now. And for example, everyone in our team has got access to paid ChatGPT accounts. Some people have paid Gemini accounts. We've got a division called Discovery Labs, which has all of the latest AI tools and platforms, and we're running tests on them just to really understand how we can optimize them for clients. So yeah, there's a lot going on there across the team.
Absolutely. Because for me, just from a basic sort of understanding, and I guess even using AI, sort of frequently in my role, I consider myself an AI optimist as well, and I like that term, and I'm going to start incorporating that into more conversations I'm having around the topic. But yeah, I from my kind of understanding and from the way I use it, it's a tool to help speed things along, but it's something where I think people overall could become very complacent, and businesses could become complacent in the use of it, which is a good example where you mentioned that business where they laid off a bunch of people and then went, oh crap, actually no, we do need that sort of human touch in there. If anything, just a sort of quality check, because it's not always going to get it right at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I add a point there? Because I think that's something that we talk about as a team quite a lot is you've hit the nail on the head there, using it as a tool. We kind of have an ethos around using AI, and it is to drive efficiency, to drive performance, but not to be lazy with our brains. And that's a fear that we have in the team. If we're not thinking enough, then potentially our thinking could become poorer. So we're very careful to use AI in the right places and make sure it doesn't replace our thinking. So, for example, putting a brief directly into ChatGPT and using whatever it comes out with, maybe doing a bit of tweaking, that's not good enough, and that's not allowed within the organization. You are allowed to use ChatGPT, obviously, but it has to be your thinking, and AI has to be the superpower on top of your thinking to kind of help you maximize what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do for the clients. I think that's going to be important going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I think that's a clever sort of tip as well for any other kind of business owners and leaders, of saying, yes, you can use this as a tool, but giving some guidelines and some provisos around how to use it, so it doesn't become something where it's doing your entire job for you, because then eventually you are going to make yourself redundant if that's good enough. But most times it isn't. So that's why you need that sort of human element into it. Yeah, for sure. And in terms of, I guess, sort of working with data so heavily and then sort of incorporating, the sort of ethics into that, especially when it's kind of, using AI, considering privacy, all of that, how does that sort of get managed overall when you're using AI as a tool?
Yeah, so I mean that's an interesting point. I think with most of our work, we're not working with PII data. Okay, we're normally working with some sort of commercial data or web data. So it doesn't affect us in a huge way, because everything that we're doing is permissioned with the people who own the data. So anything that we're doing from a large language model perspective, let's say we're working on a large website and we scrape, 10 billion rows of data. The client has given us permission to do that and to process it in our own way. They know what we're doing. So there's no ethical concerns around that in particular. But I would say, looking at the whole field as a marketer, there are many concerns, and I've spoken on other podcasts and blogs, etc., on this topic, and I think there are a few issues that need to be worked out pretty quickly by the industry. So I think a couple of examples of this is our large language models publishers. So they're all arguing like hell at the moment that they're not publishers. And there's various legal challenges going on, but in my opinion, they are. Obviously, it's beneficial for them not to be publishers because they come under more scrutiny. They're more accountable. But as far as I'm concerned, they're taking other people's information, data. They're orchestrating responses and publishing it on a platform. Even if it's a one-to-one basis, it's still being published. So I would say that is one of the ethical issues. Then another one that's causing our industry significant problems at the moment is zero-click and the rise of zero-click. So for just to make sure everyone understands what I'm talking about when I'm talking about zero-click is when you search something into ChatGPT or Google and it presents the information but doesn't result in a click through to a website for the brand that's originally published that information. So obviously that's problematic for a number of reasons, because as a brand you're investing in that content for commercial reasons to bring people to your website. So the fact that platforms are the fact that platforms are not providing that click anymore is a problem, and it's around 65% of all searches now that result in a zero-click search. So there's a question to be answered there in terms of what is the value exchange model going forward, because that still hasn't been answered. And I think the industry will work on that one over time, but it definitely needs to be solved. The other item I would say is what a term that we've coined recently when speaking to clients is the invisible middle, and again it's built on the term that everyone understands, which is the messy middle, all of that stuff that happens in the middle of the consumer journey. Well, the invisible middle for us is that Google has always done, arguably, a good job at providing us access to data in terms of what it's crawling, how it's indexing, what you're gaining out of it. So whether it's from Search Console, the input data, and what's being crawled, etc., all the way to Google Analytics, how are people ending up on your website or in your app, and what are they doing while they're there. The problem with the large language models at the moment is they're not providing any of that clarity around data in and data out, and that's I would say that's pretty unethical. I know it's not on their radar to provide that because they're moving so fast, but there are some ethical issues around that need to be addressed. And I think one of the things that we're concerned about at the moment is if ChatGPT and others don't provide a solution to that soon, what we could end up with very quickly is a less open web experience where companies are publishing some information that can be crawled and digested by large language models, but ultimately to get to anything worth value, you have to go beyond the paywall to actually log in and get that information. So that's conversations we're already having with clients. That seems to be where things are heading. So number of ethical issues that need to be addressed relatively quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an AI optimist, I guess, there's definitely lots of sort of moving parts that need to be sort of looked into, and, it's not perfect. But what advice would you have for, other leaders, kind of integrating AI within their teams, I guess specifically within the marketing space?
Yeah, so I'll get to marketing space. If we zoom out, I think my first point would always be AI it's a layer in a business. So like data, like technology, like your human resources, it's something that should be spanning across the whole organization. And then how it gets utilized in individual departments like marketing, etc., is another topic. But I would say understand that it's a layer, and ensure you're using it with clear purpose. So knowing what you're wanting to get out of it, and having a roadmap for that. So maybe stream by stream, department by department, actually have a plan of how you're gonna, what results are you wanting to get out of this? Like any technology project, what are the use cases? How are you going to implement it, and how are you going to get the value out of it? I would also say something that we've done, and this has worked really well because we've been experimenting with it internally for probably since we started rolling out for clients. We were doing things ourselves, like we launched our first AI employee in early 2023. That was Chip. He was this American avatar that was designed to help people on board. It was like a video avatar and get them trained and stuff, and that was quite fun. But so hold people accountable, make sure that you've got channels set up for communicating it. So we've got things like an AI channel where we're discovering and talking about things that are happening out in the market and how we could put them to use in our business, and then we can put them on the roadmap if required. And I think that's more or less everything, really. I mean, it's a big topic.
It is.
And I would say there are a number of things that we've implemented over the past couple of years which have fallen over. They haven't been right for the business, but we dump them and move on. So we're always in experimental mode at the moment, and that's what I would encourage people to do is experiment. Certainly don't go too deep. We've had a few clients who want to go straight in, like they're all guns blazing on one solution without testing. And I think we're still very much in the stage of test it, see if it works, and if it does work, scale it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a balanced approach for sure. And my last question would be for anyone sort of out there, I guess, whether they're, on the job market or in a current role and, understandably have a little bit of anxiety about, sort of AI being sort of implemented into the industry more and more. What kind of, I guess, sort of soft skills or people skills would you say are sort of most important to sort of bring to the table to kind of set us apart from the machines?
Yeah. So I think some of the skills that have always been important to employers are still highly relevant. So for me, critical thinking, the ability to communicate. I mean, when you're using a large language model, ultimately the people that get the best results out of it are people who can communicate well. They're creating prompts, and it's like dealing with another person, really. So communication, storytelling, the ability to analyze data and analyze results. Those are all the things that we're still looking for, and I think the lead thing that we're looking for at the moment is people who are curious and creative, because for us as a business, that's really important, that we're always kind of testing things and moving things forward. So that curiosity and creativity is one of our values, and one that we're leaning into heavily at the moment. So yeah, that's what I would say is also perhaps do your own research on large language models, understand how they work. Obviously, we're not telling everyone to become AI researchers or computer scientists, but if you've got a good understanding of the basics of AI, I think that's very, very helpful as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing in terms of, the creativity and curiosity. I feel like that's an inherently human, sort of element that we're always going to be sort of bringing to the table as humans and not as Terminator robots or what have you and all of that. So I think that's a great point to end on. Well, this has been, really, really insightful. I feel like I'm becoming a bigger AI nerd as time sort of goes on and, the tech is evolving. So I've really appreciated your time taking us through all of that. That's been amazing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time.
That's all good. All right, awesome. Well, thanks so much, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you very much.